I would just note that Councillor Simpson will need to leave us at noon today for another commitment. Do we have any conflicts of interest?
Gambling venues. Gambling venues.
Gambling.
Excellent, thank you for that. Now we do have some guests with us today to speak to our public forum, and I would like to invite Horeriti and Tanya and Peter. Will you all be joining us up the front to talk to us? Excellent. So our Chair, CE, and one of the board members from the Tētai Whenua o Te Whanganui o Aorutu. So welcome, and I would also like to acknowledge that we have Kaumatua Hami Hilton and his lovely wife, Kuia Edina Hilton, with us today, and welcome to our council meeting. And also just like to acknowledge that we have two of our Maori committee members with us today, our Chair, Chad Tariha, and I see that we've just had Te Kaha sneak in there. I didn't see you earlier, so welcome to you as well. But yes, I would invite our guests to the front to speak, please. And of course, just to notify that we are live streaming and recording. Just to let you know, and as Hori, I just let you know before the meeting, public forum speakers, there's a 10-minute time allocation, and we do ring the bell at 9 minutes to let you know that you've got a minute left. So, welcome.
Tēnā koe. O tira tēnā tātou. A tautoko hia, a te inui, o tēnei wāna, tēnei o ngā wāna. Tauwaki au ki te tau nei ko rua tipu a ko rua tawhito. Ngaru I runga, ngaru I raro. Ngaru I tiho tāne ko taku waka, ko tāki timu. He rere mai te maramara ko I hunui, ko I huroa, ko te awhi orangi. Ko wai ke runga e tūpā whai ake. Ko au, ko uenuku he tūpā whai ake. He ratahia tāhu e tūpā whai ake. Unu mea te kaua tākina te kaua. Te kaua tua nihi, te kaua tua rangaranga. Te kaua wai, te kaua o tāki timu. Unu mea te waka o tirali. Unu mea te waka o tirala. Unu mea te waka o rongo kako. Unu mea te waka o tamatea mai tawhiti. Unu mea te waka o tāki timu whano hare mai te toki. Haume hui e. Tāki. Nō reira ka tika ka hoi huri atu kia rātau kua hetu ki tua te ārai. Ngā mate huhua kei runga ki o tātou ne marae. Pērā I te rakau mātua I takoto ki runga ki tōna marae, I tā ngoio, I te rangi nei. Nō reira kei ngā mate haere tura. Ngā piti hono tātai hono, koutou ki a koutou. Ngā piti hono tātai hono tātou te hunga ora. Tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Kei te kahika. E Kirsten, tēnei rā, e mihi atu ni rā ki a koe. E te rangatira o te wharene. Huri kawatua ana ki a koutou. Ngā kai kauni hera. Tēnei ahau e mihi atu nei ki a koutou. Tatui hoki a koutou, ngā kai mahi o te kauni hera. E te tumu whakarai. E Steph, koutou, tēnei ahau e mihi atu ni. Tēnei ngā marae o te whanganui a rotu. E mihi nei. Hoi anō rā, ko tāku e tuana. Te kimu I tukoto nei aroro. Te kōrero hea nā kōrero. O ngā tūru Maori. O tēnei, o ngā takiwā. O ahuriri nei. Nō reira tēnei ahau e mihi atu nei ra ki a tātou. Tēnā koutou, huri noa te whare, tēnā tātou katoa. Kia ora. Thank you for allowing the time for us to speak before you, the councillors, before you, our worship, the mayor. I have come to recommend that on behalf of mana whenua, that you consider Māori wards for 2022. A summary of our kōrero that the Local Electoral Act 2001 provides for the establishment of one or more Māori wards and is part of a suite of legislative provisions put in place by the Crown with the aim of increasing Māori representation and participation in local authority decision-making. The intent of the recent Local Electoral Amendment Act 2021 is to improve the democratic representation of Māori interests, ensure equity in representation, and to provide a Māori voice in local decision-making. To achieve this, the following changes have been made to the LEA. Repeal of the provisions in the LEA that relate to polls on the establishment of Māori wards and constituencies. Prohibition of binding council-initiated polls on whether to establish Māori constituencies while retaining the right for councils to initiate non-building polls to gauge public sentiment. Establishment of a transition period ending 21 May 2021, during which any local authority may, regardless of any provisions, any previous decisions or previous poll outcomes, resolve to establish Māori constituencies for 2022 local government elections. This is public information, and it has been shared with Te Tai Whenua o Te Whanganui Aorotu. Any resolution to establish Māori wards applies for at least the next 2 general triennial elections. After that, Council will continue to have Māori wards unless the Council resolved to disestablish them. If the Council does resolve to establish Māori wards, then it must subsequently conduct a representation review. The representation review process is explained later in our report. The CEO of Napier stated she wanted a legal opinion. Legal opinions sought from other councils confirm the most appropriate approach is general consultation on the basic proposal, public notification of the proposal, and the key elements of the process the decision will give rise to. With focused engagement with Māori, this will be to explain the process that the decision will generate and the parameters of Māori and general ward outcomes for the district, and seek their views on the proposal and indications of what they would expect from it. A suggestion of this time frame would be that the 22nd of April 2021 resolution to support Māori wards. 23rd of April emergency council meeting to resolve the commencement of consultation on the establishment of Māori wards for 2022. 23rd of April to 12th of May, information dissemination and community engagement campaign for the wider community and target consultation with local iwi, post-settlement treaty groups, hapu and marae. 18th of May, extraordinary council meeting to consider the recommendation outcome of consultation. Council decides whether or not to establish Māori wards. 21st of May is the deadline for councils to resolve to establish Māori wards in time for 2022 elections. What we are saying here, our worship, councillors, is that there is time. There is time for 2022. We are asking that an open and transparent engagement with the community take place and allow for the wider community to have their say, along with Māori I think we deserve that right. We have been waiting 181 years to just sit at the table. We have an opportunity as Napier to take this and lead. Your fellow councils and councillors across the region are going through the same process. And together, I believe there are things that can be used, learned, and taught across the region. For Te Tai Whenua o Te Whanganui a Rotu, we support 100% our council. And when you call us, we are there. What I'm saying is that if you can consider focusing on the establishment of the wards for 2022 as opposed to 2025. That's a long wait for our people. And we're here to support this process. We're also here to see that it is open and transparent with the community of Napier. And we want to see that this engagement is taking place in fairness of us all. So I do ask that you do consider putting some energy into 2022 election.
I suppose just I'd like to add some points to Hori's korero. Obviously, we attended the Hastings District Council meeting yesterday, fully supportive. Wairua, obviously, they go to a meeting today, make a decision. And I suppose we've got to look at wider impacts. Obviously, mana whenua are sending a message to the council. If they count, it's up to the council to make the decision, but we've got to look at impacts. Tourism, all the rest that's going to come along with that. We contribute to the economy in Ahuriri and Napier as contributors within our marae. And I know Hastings yesterday talked about the Maori contribution to the economy, and all that needs to be taken into account. International coming out of COVID, and Māori are sending a clear message, or ahuriri te whanganui a rotu, along with PSGEs. So when we talked to the Mayor in Hastings yesterday, it was a collective response by PSGEs, and then everyone's got an onus to work across the board. So Te Whanganui o Rotu is sending this message, but our PSGs are also sending the message. Tora and Robin put the apologies in, but they're fully supportive. Heretatanga, Tai Whenua are fully supportive. Ngāti Kahungunu are fully supportive. So it's just trying to work to get to a solution where we can go to consultation. That's what we're asking for. I know the time frame's tight, but if we look at the example of the Regional Council, if we look at Hawke's Bay Regional Council, they've gone through, I chaired their meeting 3 or 4 years ago when it wasn't passed, but they've gone through the process. So we've been through a process of consultation with the marae, hapu, iwi, in regards to what the Māori message is, and I think we're all collective in our voice on where we want to go. Kia ora, Tania.
Kia ora. Councillors, all you're wanting is for you to be able to be informed from the community before you make your decision on the 21st of May. And that engagement with the community is important, an important process that needs to take place. It seems to me that there's only a focus on 2025, and I commend the council for that. However, we have an opportunity ahead of us in the next election year.
Kia ora. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now moving on to announcements by myself. There are no announcements, but I would like to invite Councillor Sally Crown to speak, please.
Kia ora through the Mayor. Before we start our hui this morning, I just wanted to acknowledge the recent passing of Dan Evans. He's a well-known and much-loved figure in our Nelson Park ward and Maraenui communities. He contributed to our city and region in a number of areas in his short life as an athlete, a community wellbeing promoter and as an educator, most recently at William Colenso College. So I just wanted to send our aroha to his whānau and all of those in our community who are grieving due to his loss.
Excellent.
Do we have announcements by management?
Through your Mayor, no announcements today, thank you.
Moving on to the confirmation of minutes. First up, we have the draft minutes of the council meeting held on Thursday, the 11th of March. Do I have a mover? Thank you, Deputy Mayor Brosnan, seconded by Councillor McGrath. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Secondly, the meeting of council held on Tuesday, the 23rd of March, moved again by Deputy Mayor Brosnan. You're off the mark today.
All three, if you like.
Seconded by Councillor Crystal, thank you. And third and final, meeting of council held on Thursday, the 8th of April, moved by Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Taylor. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you. Now, just to announce that we will be making a change in our agenda order today in recognition that we have guests here that are interested in the representation review paper that has come through to us from our Māori committee, and allowing them to stay and be a part of that, and then let them head off with their days. So I will bring that paper up. And do we have a council officer to actually speak to that, or are we just going to jump straight into it?
I might ask Adele and Helen to come up to the table, thanks, and we'll be guided by what's needed.
I have circulated the original.
I might just ask for a bit of background, thank you. Cheers.
If you like, yeah. So, this report that was presented to the Maori committee. Let's move your mic in a bit closer. The report was presented to the Maori committee as a noting report, simply to provide a bit of background about what a representation review is, the statutory timelines, because it is legislatively decided when and how we have to, well, how we have some opportunities, but when we have to follow legislation on the timing of a representation review. And also the fact that consideration of the establishment of Maori wards is a conversation that is part of that discussion with our community to make sure that our representation structure is providing fair and effective representation for the whole community. So what we have in the report is the previous review that was done in 2017-18, the legislation and what the tentative timelines are for the representation review for the 2025 elections.
Thank you.
Just through the Mayor, just noting that the review is normally done every 6 years.
Excellent, thank you. So I would just like to say that the paper before us today was prepared to inform the Māori Committee and Council of the proposed timeline for our next representation review. Napier City Council completed its last representation review in 2018, meaning that our next scheduled review was due to be completed for implementation for the 2025 elections. The intention originally was to include consultation on the introduction of Māori wards in this next representation review. As many will be aware, the Local Electoral Act was amended in February of this year to reduce barriers to the establishment of Māori wards. Māori wards can now be established with a resolution from Council, and this has led us to consider consulting on this separately from the full representation review. This is a significant decision to make because it affects the structure and function of our local democracy. Our significance and engagement policy creates an obligation for us to consult with the community before making a decision like this. The deadline for the decision to establish Māori wards for the 2022 election is the 21st of May 2021, less than 4 weeks away. We want to make sure any decision is made following a robust process with full engagement with our community. Council can resolve to establish Māori wards at any time. a decision made after the 21st of May, but before the 23rd of November 2023, would mean that Māori wards could be in place for the 2025 elections. After further consultation with our Māori committee and meeting with mana whenua, we are now proposing that the Māori wards consultation is undertaken separately, commencing immediately, with a council decision being made by the end of 2021 for the establishment of Māori wards for the 2025 elections. This will be a binding decision that cannot be overturned by any incoming council after the 2022 elections, and it will be in place for a mandatory 6-year period through till the 2031 elections. We are also proposing that we engage with mana whenua to explore other options to provide them with meaningful representation on council. So I would like to propose the following substantive motion. To consult separately on Māori wards with engagement commencing immediately, formal consultation in September 2021 and a decision of council in November 2021. And secondly, to engage with mana whenua regarding their role on the existing Māori committee and explore other options to provide them with representation on council. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Councillor Wright.
Who was the mover?
I moved that from the chair and seconded by Councillor Wright. So, speaking to the motion, my goal from day one of being elected as the Mayor of Ahuriri has been to create an environment that is safe for all of our people to participate in the decision making for our city, and in particular to build a true partnership with mana whenua. Historically, the relationship between Napier City Council and mana whenua has been less than perfect, and I am committed to changing that. I have taken responsibility for the Māori partnership portfolio, and I have spent the past 18 months opening my door and offering to meet with mana whenua to start building the relationships which are vital if we are to move forward together as partners. I'll be the first to admit that at times it has felt like one step forward, 2 steps back, as I'm sure mana whenua have felt at times as well. But I remain committed to my original goal. However, I recognise that this is not something we can achieve overnight or with one mechanism. To develop a true partnership takes a commitment by all parties, working together towards a common goal, recognising that we might not always get it right first time. This is a journey that we need to take together. Today we are discussing Māori wards specifically, and late last week we were approached by Te Tā Whenua a Orutu, requesting we make this decision prior to the 21st of May. Our council has not considered this formally until this point in time. However, there has been informal engagement with mana whenua since the change in the Local Electoral Act was announced in February. The pathway proposed by our council in these conversations was to continue with our original representation review timelines, leading to changes being implemented for the 2025 elections, including the potential introduction of Māori wards. This was to ensure fair and due process was followed, including full engagement with mana whenua and our wider community in an open, transparent way. It is important to understand that unlike other councils around the country who have already decided to introduce Māori wards in 2022, our council has never engaged in formal consultation on Māori wards with mana whenua and our wider community. The only engagement I am aware of is a question in a survey monkey which was included in the wider representation review completed by Council in 2017. This most certainly is not consultation. We need to have a full and open conversation with all of our community and ensure everyone understands what Māori wards are, how they work and what they mean for mana whenua and what they mean for our whole community. We also need to follow due process and ensure we meet our legal requirements under the Local Government Act and our significance and engagement policy so that we do not open ourselves up to the risk of judicial review. As a council, we are continuously criticised for not consulting enough, for not providing enough information, and in recent times have been through 2 judicial reviews on our consultation processes. We have learnt how important consultation and process is to our community. For me personally, I was elected on a mandate of leading an open, transparent council who will listen to our community and ensure you are an integral part of our decision making, that your voices will be heard. And I am completely committed to ensuring this is ingrained in the culture of our organisation. We know this is an emotive issue. It's an emotive issue for all, which has created divisiveness within our local community and throughout the whole of New Zealand for many, many years. Our mana whenua said to us today in the public forum they have been waiting 181 years to have a seat at the decision-making table. And I would like to acknowledge the pain and frustration this has caused. But we risk creating further pain and frustration if we do not take the time to do this right and bring our whole community on the journey with us. In the words of Horereti, this decision cannot be made at one level, and I couldn't agree more. The introduction of Māori wards is one mechanism available to councils to develop a partnership model with mana whenua and needs to be considered alongside the many other tools we have available to us. A number of steps have already been taken to build relationships with mana whenua over the past 18 months. I have met with mana whenua one-on-one, rangatira ta rangatira, to invite them to sit on our Māori committee and open the lines of communication. I have made it very clear that I can be contacted at any time on any matter. A true partnership goes both ways and should not rely on one party initiating conversations. We have reviewed our Māori committee structure and given it the same rights and mana as all of our other standing committees. This has included representation on council's hearing committees, inclusion in council workshops, and inclusion in the recruitment of our new chief executive. We continue to work with the representatives on this committee to ensure it is providing mana whenua with the pathway to be a true partner in council decision making. The terms of reference have not yet been finalised, as we are committed to a co-design process to achieve this. We have recently introduced our new business unit, Te Waka Rangapu, including the establishment of the Pōwhakare role, which sits within the senior leadership team. We are in the process of recruiting for the 2 Māori advisors who will sit within this team, and alongside myself and the Chief Executive, this team will work closely with mana whenua to ensure they are active participants in our decision making under a partnership model. So I return to the issue we are discussing today regarding the introduction of Māori wards. This is something I personally support, but it is far from a perfect tool or a final solution. This is only one tool in our toolbox, and we need to ensure Māori wards are well understood by all and that we have a meaningful conversation with all of our community. The risk if we rush into this is that further barriers and divisiveness will be created within our community. I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge and thank our Māori committee who have worked alongside us to prepare the substantive motion I have put forward today. After further discussion following on from our last committee meeting, when this paper was originally tabled, the committee has provided us with the following advice: that they are fully supportive of Māori wards being implemented with urgency, but would like to stress the importance of a fair and due process being completed. If a fair and due process is unable to be achieved within the 21 May timeframe, then we would recommend the councillors and Napier City Council make a firm commitment to ensure significant progress is made. And we also recommend an invitation be extended to mana whenua to return to their Māori committee seats to be a part of this process and ensure accountability is maintained. This is a compromise for our Māori committee that they will have to take back to their hapu and marae, and I thank them for working with us to reach this point. We will continue to work together over the coming months as we progress the formal consultation process, and I have no doubt that they will hold us to account and ensure we deliver on the commitments we are making today. For our mana whenua, I know you will be disappointed, but I do want to assure you that our decision to take our time with this is not because it is a conversation about Māori wards. It is because as a council, we are committed to working with all of our community in a truly collaborative way, seeking genuine input into our decision making. The resolutions I have put forward today are our commitment to mana whenua and the wider community to do just this. Thank you. Now, I will be suspending under my discretion in Standing Order 21.1. I will be suspending Order 21.5 today to allow all members to speak. So I will open up. Councillor Wright, would you like to speak now or reserve your right to speak till the end?
I'll speak now, only to say that I was happy to second your motion and I have nothing to add to your extremely wise words. And thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Crown.
Kia ora through you, Madam Mayor. I've recently watched with admiration a number of councils fulfil what has been for some of them a very long and potholed journey. And I hope that my research serves me correctly when I say that as of February this year, when Minister Mahuta announced that councils would be able to establish Māori wards in exactly the same way as we establish general wards, by stripping away the 5% poll that was being used to overturn councils' decisions, that 9 councils indicated that they were in a position to move on this within the timeframes given to establish Māori wards for 2022. Mostly because they had already begun a process and a conversation with their community towards establishing Māori wards in their communities. Yesterday, we watched our whanaunga across the river agree with the recommendation from their Takoto Noa Māori Standing Committee, including mana whenua, and agree to consult on the establishment of Māori wards. And to be honest, I'm very enviable of their position, of the conversation they have had with their community so far, the strong relationships that they have with mana whenua and their wider community, the decisions that they have made up to this point, and that their failure in the past in managing to establish Māori wards, because that has been overturned by that 5% poll, means that they are actually afforded the ability to potentially get this across the line for 2022. So we are not comparing apples with apples. I've never been a part of any similar process, conversation or consideration here in Napier, and something that I know to be true in this environment is that process matters. It's the glue that holds our decisions tight and together. It's what makes them stick. And we would be foolish to have not learnt from the experiences of the recent past in regards to how important consultation and process is to the people of Napier. We want to bring our community together, not wage war in courtrooms. We want to do things in the smartest, best way so that when we look back, when our tamariki and our mokopuna are sitting in rooms like this, that the decisions that we make today have made life better for them. So ko waio, who am I? I'm a woman of Maori and Pākehā descent who yearns for the intent of a treaty signed 181 years ago to actually deliver on what it agreed to. I have the privilege of sitting at tables and in rooms where I wear multiple hats, apply multiple lenses, and feel a cloak on my shoulders heavy with responsibility to best serve my community and my people. And I wanted desperately for the table I'm sitting around today to be bold and commit to a robust educational conversation with our community so that we complete a process that is pono. So that when Māori wards are established for Napier, that they stick, that they work, that they achieve what tangata whenua need them to, and that they prove to uplift our entire community. So today, we're looking at committing to a pono process. We are upholding the mana of our Māori committee and what they have shared with us in the recommendation that Mayor Wise has just given to us. And I'm grateful for their guidance, their courage, and including their very apt reminder of their intention to hold us to account as we build our relationship and our journey towards Māori wards. We can't make it stick without them. That's what partnership is, going together, listening, learning and compromising. So the compromise is that while we consider we can't run a process that will stick in time for 2022, we draw a line in the sand today, and far from rejecting Māori wards, we say we commit to consulting on them just like many of our other counterparts across the country. We look to introduce other mechanisms that mana whenua and tangata whenua can have representation in our decision-making processes so that their voice is equal to ours around the table. The line in the sand today is that we want to walk the talk together and are committed to making that happen.
Kia ora, Sally.
I open up to any other councillors that would wish to speak. Councillor Tapani.
For the first time ever, nice and short, Your Worship, 100% agree with the comments passed by Councillor Crown. Ngā mihi.
Councillor Taylor.
I endorse all the comments that have been made, but my comment is more around representation review. And that is that in 2018, was it? We undertook a review where we decided not to have at-large seats and go to a full ward system. And at that time I spoke against that. And the argument for a full ward system was that it would bring diversity, it would bring a greater range of people to the table. And I look around this table today and I see 6 men, 6 women, 2 of Maori descent, others of Scottish descent, and every other European nation that has come to New Zealand. And I support what we are doing today. I believe we have to consult appropriately. As the Mayor has said, we have gone through judicial reviews and it's an embarrassment often. So I think the correct process is being done, and I commend our Māori committee for their recommendation that when we move down this path in partnership, that even greater diversity will be brought to this table. Thank you.
Councillor Bogue.
Kia ora. I support this resolution, and by means of background, in 2017 when we did discuss this issue, I voted in support of Māori wards, and I still strongly support Māori wards. And I'd just like to say, in response to the last speaker, that when a Māori person stands for election in a general election, they are elected to represent the general populace, whereas Māori wards, and we will have this, I'm sure we will have this discussion at a later date, but the Māori wards councillors will be elected from the Māori role in order to represent Māori, not as the Māori voice. I mean, we are lucky to have people of Māori descent on our council, but they are there to represent the wider population rather than to speak on behalf.
Point of order, Madam, I was not intending that they were representing Māori.
Well, yesterday I attended a meeting with the Tai Whenua, and I was very touched by the anguish and emotion that was expressed about the importance and the urgency of us to introduce Māori wards at the earliest possible opportunity. It has been a long battle, and when I watched the live stream, as Councillor Crown did, and probably others of you, of the Hastings District Council Committee making that decision themselves in the afternoon, I was very emotional about that, and also, as Councillor Crown expressed, quite envious of their position. But as their chair said, this had been a long process that I think started in 2014, and I applaud them for that. We haven't had that long process yet, but I hope that we are at the beginning of it with the commitment that's expressed in this resolution. Last night we had a late meeting with the Māori committee to try and see where we could go, and this is what we came up with their endorsement or support, as Mayor Wise expressed. And it is a compromise, but with the time frame so tight and our desire to do this process properly, this is, I think, a good way through the issue. It's sad that, in my mind, that we can't have Māori ward elections in 2022, but I just hope that this isn't the end of anything. It's the beginning of us developing a much stronger relationship, an ongoing relationship, as the resolution says, with our treaty partners. So I support this resolution.
Thank you, Councillor Bowe. Councillor Brown.
I just too want to say that I support all the comments that have been made, and that I understand the frustration and I feel the pain of another 3 years, but we were asked today for an open and transparent consultation, and I just do not think that we can achieve that in the 3 weeks. And particularly with some viewpoints in our community where this, if we rush it, it's going to create a lot of fear and anxiety and vulnerability in some members of our community. And when people are feeling vulnerable and on the back foot, that's when they feel that they get on the defensive. And I just really want this process to be a beautiful coming together of our community, as opposed to one that creates so much division and pain and hurt. So fully supportive of the motion.
Emmy Brosnan.
Yeah, I just want to speak in support of the kōrero that our elected members and our mayor has made. You know, I agree wholeheartedly with, you know, that kaupapa that Māori deserve certainty and equity and representation and in the governance of our city, but they also deserve, you know, meaningful participation, and that means that the Māori community understand the Māori wards. They understand, you know, how their ability to get involved in our governance will occur, and 3 weeks doesn't give us enough time to have those conversations. You know, I'm really saddened about the emotion behind this, and all of the hurt that I think has been said by a number of our speakers today. But, you know, this process needs to bring us together. It needs to break down barriers, not create them. And it needs to pull us all together without, you know, racially fueled debates that are not good for the future governance of this city and the future leadership. We need to all come together on this. We need to all be in the room. And Hori, you know, your team need to be in the room for this conversation. This is really important. We want them in the room. Yeah, just shout out to all of your words, Mayor Wise. I think they are very wise.
One last opportunity if anyone else would like to speak before I put the motion. So just to, I think it is behind me, but just to repeat it, the substantive motion that I have put forward today is to consult separately on Māori wards with engagement commencing immediately, formal consultation in September 2021 and a decision of Council in November 2021, and to engage with mana whenua regarding their role on the existing Māori committee and explore other options to provide them with representation on Council. So I will put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you, everyone. I would just like to make a short adjournment. If I have a mover and seconder for that. Thank you, Councillor Crown and Councillor Simpson. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Just quick 5 minutes, everybody.